is my very much depresso late night stream. I have been struggling with thoughts and issues about my gender and sexuality, which is pretty bad when you're already in a relationship, like that just causes problems, and it also causes problems to your entire friend circle. And then you have to think about what it's like to share that info with your friends. Like, I have some friends in the LGBTQ community, so they probably don't take it as hard. They just going to be like, yeah, I accept you and stuff. But like, I just want to like make event art right now, just because my pulse is so high I can't sleep. Probably amidst of trying to keep myself from having a panic attack, which is just caused by the sheer amount. Like, in case you don't know or anything, in case you aren't aware, if you are trans, if you're transgender, you just have to that is like that is basically easy. Like, when you finally admit that you're trans and you're coming out, that is basically the equivalent of seeing your entire life crumble before your eyes, because like a lot of things that you do get very much influenced by that. And I can already hear the voices from inside outside my head, like the voices of people that just, I don't know, that just like that I can think of in my inner circle and what they're going to say, and that's causing me major anxiety already. But like, this isn't going to be good art, by the way. I just need to warm up. Also, I hate when I make bad art, even for the sake of practice, but sometimes like you have to, because if you don't, then like, how are you going to practice things if everything has to be polished and perfect looking, right? So yeah. But right now, I'm probably going to get bothered by it. I know, horrible. But like, this is going to be bad art. Just like, imagine you are a fool like me, because like I am the biggest fool on this planet. Like, it is so bad actually. It's just another one of the things that I did. And it all started back when I was 13. That was like in, goddamn, that was like 7 plus 4 equals 11. That is like 2000 fucking 10. What a cringy year. But like, yeah, probably started around 2010. And in 2010, I don't know what, but like the web in general introduced me to the entire transgender thing. I think it baffled me so much that I read up on an article about it actually. And back when I was 13, I was still pretty young, and the concept was just so alien to me that I was just like, I clearly remember thinking, oh my god, those poor people that feel that way. And then I obsessively wrote a story about a transgender character, which I probably miswrote and which isn't like online anymore. But yeah, I actually made a story, and actually my book series is based on that, but like that is completely changed and left out, and it's like completely changed. But basically I wrote a story about, I don't even know if it was a female to male transgender issue or if it was like male to female. I don't even recall. And it wasn't it the story itself wasn't really clear on that either. But like it was basically just a story about a person in school facing the issues of like identifying with the wrong gender. Yeah, and then cosplay happened. And pretty quickly, as you do when you're young, you start to develop your sexuality, right? And as I did with mine, I started to cosplay. That was going simultaneously, that like grew at the same exponential rate. And if anyone wants to know, I'm only cosplaying male characters. Like, I'm a biological female, but I'm just only going to cosplay male characters, and it has always been like that. And I actually do own a cosplay of a female character and had a photo shoot with her pictures, and I think they're still up on my DeviantArt page. And just like to debunk the myth right away, like I don't feel I don't feel wrong as a female, but I just feel more right as a male. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't. You probably don't. But I just have so much to talk about on this entire subject because I'm just a dense motherfucker. Sorry, YouTube. This is demonetized. Anything I produce is demonetized, actually. Also, I just wanted to announce that I'm starting to upload my cosplay TikToks on YouTube Shorts. Yes. Maybe I'll even make a compilation at one point. Yeah, and I am really fucking tired, but like, had you ever have a, did you ever have like a day where you've been so tired that you just went straight to bed, even though you were hungry and thirsty and everything, but you went straight to bed because you were just so intensely tired? Yeah, that was me today. So I woke up at like half past three, something, yeah, a.m. in the morning, a.m. And I needed to drink. I needed to eat so bad. Yeah, so I did. And then I couldn't fall asleep anymore because like transgender issues were like bugging me. So, for everyone who isn't trans and who wants to listen to this for some odd reason, like, you're probably asking yourself right now, like, what is this? Like, what is it like to have transgender issues? Oh, I cringed so hard at that word. So, first of all, I just wanted to say that I'm probably an oddball, very big oddball, because, like, this entire ordeal is just embarrassing to the bone to me. I do not know. Wait, what the fuck am I doing? Art, stop being ugly. You're not supposed to be ugly. Yeah. No, like, Sigh. First of all, like, this isn't really going well. This isn't going well for me. At all. This entire transgender shit isn't going well for me. I deeply wish that it wasn't true. I deeply just want to accept myself the way I am, but like I can't. So, in my opinion, this is like having intrusive thoughts a lot. And I've been suppressing them for 11 years. So, yeah, that's it. And I think like admitting that I'm trans is probably the best I can go about it instead of just lying to myself. And this is just so hard. I also like I have depression since so many years since I'm 13. Oh, what a coincidence that thank you, Ayu, you're so sweet. Um I hate myself so much. There's a lot to say. There's just a lot to say about the topic. I don't even know how to start it. I don't even know how to explain it to people. It is so much and so hard to explain that I'm just like, can you just like accept it and like, please don't make me explain stuff, because the more I explain stuff, the more people are going to see it as a basis that they can attack me on argumentatively, when this is like an intuitive based subject. Like, you could probably ask all transgender people of like the entirety of the world on why they are transgender, and that is just like asking someone on why they are gay. Like, there is no response to this. Like, you can explain what it feels like to be gay to someone, or what it feels like to be transgender, like what issues you face and what general concerns you face in your head, like the struggles you face mentally. You can tell that to someone, but like you cannot really explain why you feel that you aren't the gender that you're born with, because that is an intuitive based feeling and an issue that just comes back into your head over and over and over again until you address it and probably essentially transition. And not even those points stand for every transgender person. Like, there are enough transgender people that are probably relatively okay with their original gender, since I do count non-binary and every every non-binary identity, I count them into the transgender spectrum because they sometimes also transition. Oh, this is such a bad explanation already. Like, you can already take all my arguments and dissect them and like call me transphobic or shit for that, because like just speaking about the issue yourself just initially can make other people dissect your arguments to the brim and make you seem transphobic. That is just so easy for other people to do. Like, imagine the scenario, right? Like, if I were to explain why I feel that I am transgender, that I am actually a male, then people are going to take this as like a place where they can make arguments based on that. Like, if I were to explain my own experience, there will be two kinds of people that I already hate having to deal with in the future. Um, and I don't even mean like the direct transphobes, like those are horrible, but I'm just gonna use the block button for them, right? Like, if someone comes to my profile and is like, no, you're a girl, that is just like an instant block. I'm sorry. Or I'm going to write them a meme comment, because like that is the power I hold. Like, if someone comes to my profile in general on all my socials and just writes a fucking stupid comment, then they are probably going to get fucking dunked on by me, because that is funny to me. That is hilarious to me. But if it's just downright hateful, then I'm just gonna block and delete and don't come to my profile ever again. This is not a place for transphobic people. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. So yeah, I'm just going to be here and talk about this, like, because but you don't sound depressed. I can already hear that in the background. Like, yeah, you can tell that to my therapist, actually. Oh, this is chaotic. Can't even concentrate on art, actually. Maybe I'm just gonna slap colors. I think of just slapping colors on the canvas. I really want to improve on my perspectives, and like I immediately forget what perspectives actually look like if I don't continuously draw. And I have been doing cosplay for like 1.5 weeks now and trying to get like one of my costumes ready, which I did. I'm proud of myself for that. Which I did, and like essentially. Oh, have you ever dealt with an issue in your life for so long that talking about it is just making you sick, like physically sick? Have you ever had that issue? Have you ever had the issue in your life where you were just so done with something because of all the possible arguments that you're going to hear from people trying to help, or sometimes not even that, but like all those arguments, and like have you ever had that you were just like tired of answering questions about a topic? Like, it doesn't even matter if it's like transgender related or depression or anything related, but we were just tired. We were just so endlessly annoyed and tired by the entire subject. You do not want to answer anything about it anymore. You just want people to take it, to just initially take it. That is kind of the struggle, because if you're coming out with any kind of identity or sexuality, there's always going to be people like, this is a bad, like, have you ever had something happen in your life that is just very tragic and traumatic, and for some reason it's just such a big event that you cannot hide it from people, and then like everyone and their mother asks about it and you just have to say something, but like you're also so confused and so sad and depressed that you don't even know how to form words, and then they comment on your badly formed words and like attack you for it, but you are very insecure at that moment and very tired and very overworked, and like, and people take it as, and people don't show you kindness, and like, I don't know, don't show you any niceness, any gentle answers to the topic, but like just see it as, oh, this person is now easy to take down and easy to argument against, like this, and this is what I fucking hate. And this also happened to me in therapy a lot, where I wanted to just like spill my heart and share my feelings, but it was so hard to do because the therapist would literally pretend to be understanding and nice and like act all like, oh, I understand you and shit. And then I got my report back, and they thought I was lying. They thought I was telling lies the entire time, and that I was making everything up, and that everything was overblown, and that I was a hypochondriac, and that I would make up mental disorders and shit, when I would actually just tell them the reevaluations other professionals had given me. This is just so bothersome to me, because like I haven't really felt accepted anywhere. Like, my main point of depression is because I have a hard time accepting myself, but if I come out with anything, people are usually going to be very unaccepting of that again, which is like, do you know the meme? Like the meme with like that has like this thing, and then it's like it has a smiling face, and then it goes like, oh, I want to talk on that issue, and then it's like opening up the box. I think it's an original artwork by Shen, and then goes like this, and it's like, I'm gonna open up about this issue, and then there's going to be a fist that punches it right back, and then it's just like, never again with like walls that are thrice as thick. And that's just what happened. Like, people were telling me for years, concerned friends were telling me for years I should go to therapy because that would make it better. But it made it so much worse. Like, okay, first of all, nothing anyone in therapy told me was something I didn't already know. Like, I knew all the things that they were telling me. It was either very obvious things, or it was things that I already read up on because I have such a high interest in the topic and I was going to study in that field, that I actually read up a lot of literature about therapy and the different methods you have to help yourself with your disorder and stuff. And I was so invested into all that stuff that I just kind of knew all the basics already. And when I was in therapy, we would get worksheets. Like, I was in stationary therapy for a long, long time, and you had multiple therapy sessions a week. So many, I'm fucking dead. And you would get worksheets essentially, and they would include tips on how you can structure your daily life, and how you can, what tools you essentially have to help yourself relieve stress when you are facing trouble with your mental disorder. And I knew all of those things already. And I'm not going to say this like, oh, I'm so much better and smarter than everyone else. Like, there were some people, and that was lovely to see, right? That was helpful and lovely to see that there were some girls, especially in my part of the course, that were just so happy to see all those new tips for them, and they were just relieved. You could see the stress relieving from their face as they were learning those issues and those tips, and that was amazing to see. I love that. But like, for me, it was just like, yeah, I know that I'm supposed to have a consistent sleep schedule, and that I'm supposed to make this and that breathing exercise, and that I'm supposed to stimulate myself so I don't get hung up on depressive thoughts, and that I should focus on positive things and like methods and techniques that I already knew, like that. And to me, that was kind of a downer already, like that I already knew about those things. But then I just thought, yeah, well, maybe the entire aspect of having a therapist talk to me would help me. And I felt I felt so happy and relieved. I literally cried when I would finally sit in the therapist's office, and like I spilled out everything. I talked so fast, and they were acting like they were accepting me. And then again, in the report I got back, they labeled everything I said as lies, essentially. Like, it was unfathomable to those people, which are essentially professionals, that other people read mental health literature. That was just unfathomable to them. Like, do you know an online space, like, I'm sorry, therapist dudes, but do you know, like, an online space in general, like, do you know how many mental health advocates and how many mental health advice there is on the web, for better or worse? But like, there is tons of it, and if you're interested in the subject, you could like deep dive for, I'd say, 3 weeks straight, right into the entirety of videos and mental tips on the subject, often even from other professionals, right? Because people nowadays are very irky towards like information that isn't coming from good sources. So that's also important to me, like that it has good source material. I'm not gonna take info from like a 13-year-old writing it on their personal Tumblr blog, right? I'm just gonna take infos from professionals, and there are tons of YouTube channels that already provide you with stuff like this. Yeah, so essentially, this is wrong. Essentially, yeah, I got my report back, and it stated that a hypochondriac and that I was lying about everything just because I had informed myself on how to self medicate, like not with medication, but like where, like, professional resources, years prior to actually needing to go into therapy. So, because like when I started out having depression, oh, this sounds so bad, but like when I realized that I was very depressed and that I wouldn't get out of this, I looked for answers on the web, which is like what many people do, right? Like, that's just a normal thing people do in general. And like many people do that, and I do that, and yeah, and that was just unfathomable to them, and they judged me so much for that. Oh, I wish I could draw more dynamic. I can't. Sad life. This isn't supposed to look like this. As you can see, I'm already indecisive. Very indecisive. It's supposed to be more like. It's supposed to be like this. Have this. And the hand that is like. With fingers like this. Yeah, I'm just doing this to occupy myself, as you can see, because I can't sleep. Because I'm just so angry. I'm so pissed at myself. And essentially, this isn't looking like I want it to look like, which makes it even worse. I don't care right now. This is a warm up. Anyways, yeah. I already hate all my artworks right now. Yeah, essentially, it's not very cool to already feel like you're not accepted and then going into therapy in the hopes of being accepted and just like being less accepted there. and just like labeled like a liar again. That is a very horrible feeling, and it actually stunted me so much that like it was so bad. Like I was going there because my depression was at such a low that I couldn't help myself anymore, because I needed like that extra help. That was why I was going there. And my reception in the end was like, no, that's not helpful. That's not helpful at all. That is the opposite of helpful. And also, I hate talking about that experience a lot because I get the vibe that people listen to me and then maybe think, oh my god, this person had such a terrible experience with therapists. I don't want to go to therapy myself, which is the opposite effect that I want to have on people. I want people to go to therapy and experience therapy for themselves, because I cannot tell you which point they are in their lives, and like getting any kind of help is better than getting no help. But I'm just saying that the way that they tried to help me was like the worst. Like I got antidepressants back in the day, and those helped a little bit to stabilize my mood, which got me over the edge of the endless cycle in my head of intrusive thoughts. So that was a good thing. But like the antidepressants also had like horrible side effects, and like life is not deja vu. And yeah, basically yes. So I really think that in general, videos with people talking about their own experience can be somewhat toxic to your subconscious mind, right? Because if you hear me talk badly about medication and like mental professionals, that just, I really hope that it doesn't come off this way and that it doesn't have the effect on people to be scared of those things and be scared of getting help, because this is like the worst thing I could probably achieve with this. Like I'm sharing this story because it's like it's hurting me and I want to talk about it. And also maybe I'm sharing it for the people who have a similar experience, but they for some reason can't talk about it because they feel so isolated and alone with it that they are waiting for someone else to start the conversation. So I'm also here for that. And yeah, back when I realized that I was having depression, like, I don't know about you, but I have several weird traits, and one of those weird traits is that I would, oh, hi, that I would essentially obsess about things. And whenever I would obsess about things, I couldn't really help it. Like, I didn't actively choose those things. I would just have a liking towards them that was so intense. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I like dogs, right? But it was like obsessing about dogs for 2 years or some stuff. where I would look continuously at pictures of them and squeal about them and then feel bad about not having a dog and then informing myself about getting a dog and then informing myself on local shelters where I could interact with dogs and career paths I could take in the direction of dogs and if I could like put a picture of them on my wall and shit like that. Yeah, and in when I started to find out that I was probably depressed, which is stems from early childhood in my case, right? Um, then that means I probably had that going on for me for several years already, right? That artwork is so horrible. I hate it. I'm going to fix it in a second. Right, yeah, I'm going to fix that. It's pretty horrible. Yeah, but I do go all in since I'm reading the chat. But yeah, I have talked about those issues publicly a lot of times, I think. Yeah, I think I have. I think I have mentioned them numerous times, and like some part of me is kind of scared that this has negative repercussions for me, but the other part of me is like what am I supposed to do? Like, not have depression and just ignore it and ignore talking about it? Like, that's just not what I'm going to do. Also, like, so the entire obsession with like the other gender for me, biologically speaking, started around the same time that I would develop depression, right? And there are several things. Um, there are several things about being a girl that I absolutely adore and love, right? Like when I was younger, I used to be obsessed with overly girly things, and I still am obsessed with overly girly things. I love the color pink, like things that are by society determined to be overly girly. Like I love the color pink. I love very long hair. I think it's so pretty when people have really, really long hair. And I personally wanted to have long hair for a very long time. If anyone knows all the pictures of me, then you obviously have seen me with very long hair and like very girly features. I was very entranced by makeup, and I still am. And this is an unknown fact about transgender folk in general. I'm just gonna put this out there. Like, you can cancel me if this is not true for you, but it is true for a lot of transgender folk. A lot of trans people actually have really good makeup skills. Like to a degree, like because if you are male to female, then you can probably understand why those folks have good makeup skills. Like makeup is essential to structure your face in a way so it looks a certain way, and you can use makeup a lot to soften up your face and to have like a traditional girl look. Also, girls are like sometimes required by society to have makeup on, essentially. So if you are a male trying to look more female, then like makeup is the best pick to start. Like that is like the softest way to start and the easiest way to start, because like what are you going to do? Like have surgery on your own face? Like that's impossible. You have to wait until you get like a spot on the list, essentially. So people do a lot with makeup, and that's why a lot of trans folk are very good with makeup. And for the female to male parts that I belong to, that is also those people. And then this is also controversial take it, you can cancel me again for that, but I have the sole theory that a lot of female to male transgender people are deeply into the cosplay scene, like very deeply entwined in the cosplay scene, whilst a lot of male to female are deeply entwined in the theater and drag scene. I don't know why, but it just that's just what I know from meeting so many people like me. Okay, like it's kind of also a stereotype, but like if you associate with that, like treat it as a meme chart. Treat what I'm saying right now as a meme chart, because like you cannot generalize those things. Like there is always going to be someone, or like maybe even a group of people falling outside of the spectrum. But if you have ever questioned that yourself, then you know, like then you just know. And yeah, makeup is an easy way to alter your face, essentially. And um yeah, being trans fucking sucks. I'm going to get canceled for this again. I'm talking about my own experience, okay? Is this acceptable for people? Can people understand that I'm talking about my own experience and that I don't like other people devaluing that? Like, if you are different, you're still cool and valid. Like, if you want to transition from a female to a male and you want to look completely like a buff person in the fitness studio and like gain 20 centimeters of height and stuff like that, then that is fine. Like, I'm just a fucking twink. Like, I'm just tiny and small, and I always will be, and I kind of like that about myself. So, yeah. I never intended to be giant, big, and buff and stuff like that. I'm cute and small, okay? Like for anyone who has seen my TikTok stuff, they probably know. They probably know what I'm going for aesthetic wise and what I'm looking like, because a lot of people have this weird stereotype about transgender people that they want to be an extreme version of their opposite. Oh, this is hard to explain. Like, I have always been an overly feminized woman. I have been into the entire looking like Barbie aesthetic a lot, which is still cool to me, but like I don't identify as that gender. So if I'm going to dress up like that, it's going to be like a dress up thing. Like a lot of fashion and how I look is a lot like is an aesthetic to me, is like an art form to me, and isn't like a defining characteristic of what I feel like I am inside. And yeah, so if you want to transition to the other gender and you don't want to go to an extreme with it, you just want to look like yourself, essentially, that is just as valid as like wanting to look like an extreme version. Like I know some trans people that want to transition to the other gender, but they still want to look like themselves. And then there are people transitioning to the other gender that wish to have very, I would even call it, iconic features of what you perceive the other gender to be like. I have seen that in a lot of ways. I don't know. Like, I've seen that in a lot of ways. I have seen a lot of male to female transitions where the male starts off, I would say, like a classic normal looking male, but transitions into a very dolled up, makeup heavy version of themselves with like very long, luscious hair and stuff. But then I've also seen people transition to the other gender and they basically looked very much the same. Like, it's not like overly dramatic. Like, it's not like a drag transition, okay? Like in TikTok videos, they do that. They do those videos where they show you how you normally look and then how you look like in your favorite drag outfit or stuff like this. And like some people see transgenderism and the transition that transgender people physically make with their bodies like this. And this is often not the case. I've seen numerous people, also popular people online actually, that just like want to look like themselves in the end, and they already look like themselves, um so they just want to look like themselves but with slightly enhanced features towards the gender they try to transition to. Also, this is hard for me in English, and I'm also really tired. So if I do words wrong, I'm sorry. I was trying to get a reference on Google for that. Yeah, essentially, so yeah, some people are like, but you look like a woman. And then I'm like, yeah, but maybe I'm just trying to be a slightly more male looking person. And I have always been subscribed to the idea of being kind of feminine and being small and having like very fluffy, soft hair. Like, I don't even know how to describe this because people are already going to be offended by just me calling it like that, but I'm just gonna call it like the fuckboy aesthetic, like the soft boy fuckboy aesthetic. The I like fluffy hair and I like not having abs and I like being thin and stuff like that. And I'm not going to change that about myself when I transition. I'm just going to be a slightly more male looking version of myself. Like, the goals for my transition aren't to become like a buff fitness guru or like a jaw dropping actor that is like 2 meters tall or some shit and that can carry females and shit. Like, I am basically just like a twink and I'm gonna stay a twink. Sorry to disappoint. Yeah. Yeah, and so that stereotype. Yeah. And if you want to be an, I would say, very, very passing, like, I'm going to use the word like, if you're going to be a very passing version of the gender you're transitioning to, then that is fine and valid. Like, that is absolutely valid. If you want to be essentially a Barbie girl that is like tiny with giant boobs and long luscious locks and overly done drag makeup, that is fine too. That is like I stan. I'm sorry, but I stan. And if you want to be like a completely buff 2 meter guy that is all about fitness and has like very defined abs and a very, very thick beard and very thick dark hair or stuff like this, and tattoos all over and can carry anyone in their entire circle of like friends with like one hand, then that is valid too. That, like, nice. I mean, like, you do you, and that is absolutely valid and cool. But I'm just one of those people who just wants to look like myself, essentially. I wish my voice would be more masculine sounding, but it is also fine for me if I can like switch voices, essentially. If I can switch between like this and a bit more of a male sounding voice, which I'm actually practicing, if nobody knows, because I'm also a voice actor. And yeah, this and I had to think about that hand for a second. And of course, like, one of my transition goals is to have breast reduction. And for me, a huge part of why I didn't come out as trans sooner, because like for the last 11 years, I was thinking about that one issue, and I have changed my mind about the topic 3 times. And essentially, the topic is getting kids, having kids, right? Because if you are facing the myths of what the normal public consensus is about transgenderism, then you have probably heard about the theory of how hard trans people have it to have kids, essentially, which is not completely untrue, but there are a few things to debunk here. So, first of all, like, took my time to research all of this last days because I have issues. And yeah, essentially, and I am so grateful for science in general, just like thank you, science. But science has made it possible for trans people to have breast reduction surgery, or also female people, or like anyone actually, to have breast reduction surgery and still preserve the function for lactation, so you can still breastfeed kids in the future, which is such an important development in science and like in psychological well-being of people in general. Because imagine being someone with breast cancer and you have to reduce your breasts, and if you identify as a woman, then that is a huge blow to the confidence of a lot of people, especially if they learn like, and you will never be able to breastfeed your kids. That is hurtful to a lot of people. Like, imagine hearing that, and imagine knowing you have to do it because you have cancer, essentially. That is horrible. So I'm very glad that they made that advancement in science. I am so glad about this. This is just like one of the best things I read all week. I was just so happy about those news. And that means for me as a transgender person, I can get my chest reduced, which I already planned on doing since several years, because like my coming out as being a boy is essentially like 1 week old, but like I have been non-binary my entire time before that. The entire time of being non-binary, I had already thought about what transitioning process I would go through, and breast reduction was always part of the plan. I don't like my breast size. I don't want to have it, essentially. So I wanted to have a more androgynous look for a long time, which is also what I'm going like aesthetic wise, fashion wise. So yeah, this is nothing new actually, that I wanted to reduce my chest size. But it is something new that I can actually do it without the repercussions of having to have trouble with my future kids, essentially, which is still a topic I will get into. But like, okay, so like the topic of having and wanting kids, essentially. So I am absolutely unsure if I want to have biological kids. And for a long time, I wasn't. For a long time, I was very determined to have at least 2 biological kids. But like the entire thing of having kids is still something I really want. Like one day I probably want kids. But then I moved out from home, and I had to be financially stable with just myself for the last 1 to 2 years finally. And it has been going so bad, and I have been struck financially so much that I just cannot imagine. Like, I have depression and several other issues, and it is so hard for me to even take care of myself. And I don't want to drag any kid into my essentially bad habits. And I also don't want to have a child that grows up in an environment where they learn that, like, essentially their parent has a hard time eating and showering and doing essential tasks, because that is something, if you grow up with something in your early childhood, that's something that's going to be normalized for you. And I cannot even think of any way where that would be okay. I cannot think of any way where it would be okay for me to essentially get a child involved in a situation this bad, because it is this bad. Yeah, this it's a big part of responsibility for me. And the other part is like, do I like, I would say, environmentally speaking, this sounds so weird, but like, do I actually need to have a biological child? Because I actually couldn't care less about that factor. Because like, there are so many children that don't have any kind of parent, and that are just here essentially, and no one adopts them. And I would gladly adopt any kind of baby from any kind of ethnicity. I don't care. Like, when I'm stable enough in my own life that I can actually do that, and if I get like access to the rights to do that, because this is like sometimes adoption is like really a horrible process. But like, I don't know about the details in my country actually about that topic. Maybe I'm going to look it up, and I recommend anyone watching to actually also look that up for themselves if they are struggling with the topic of like, do I want biological kids, or do I want to adopt, maybe, on how hard it is to adopt, and if you want to go through those hurdles, or if you fall into a category that has it very hard to adopt. Yeah, essentially I will probably try to adopt a kid if I want a kid one day. And I really don't want to bring a kid into the world that has my kind of issues, because they are behavioral. You learn and normalize them when you're very young, and you interact with me a lot of times. And you also um, you kind of maybe inherit them, which isn't really, that's proven by science, but like, my biological inheritance wouldn't be a good one. Like, that kid could probably have schizophrenia, and I do not want anyone to come into this world with a disorder like that. So if there are already kids that don't have parents, then I would probably rather adopt one than have one with the chance of inheriting my disorders, essentially, which I can clearly see in all the biological females in my family tree, very well mirrored. I can see all the bipolar tendencies there. Sorry, family, I'm so sorry. Like, I can see that, and I think it's a horrible disorder to suffer from. And for that reason, I think, I have to think a bit more. Mm, and for that reason, I'm going to. Also, no hate on people that actually want biological kids and stuff. That is completely fine. But I personally have an ethical problem with it in some kind of way. Sounds weird, but like, I feel like I have a huge responsibility to bear when getting kids, and this isn't something that I can just like selfishly make, because I'm already suffering from being an over empathetic person. And like, projecting a lot of my issues and shit. So, yeah. Anyways, by the way, I'm reading the chat just in case you're wondering. I'm keeping up with whatever you're typing in there, and I'm very grateful that you're watching. I hope this is not like the saddest thing to watch ever, because I'm making this stream to kind of clear my mind a bit of the issues that I hate talking about so much, but like have to talk about sometime in my life. At some point. I don't know how to explain to someone why I'm trans, and I already know that my parents will ask. I just know that they're going to ask, and they're going to be like, "Oh, but why do you now suddenly think that you're a boy? You have always been a girl," and shit like that. And I'm just, no, I cannot explain this to you. Like, this isn't something that can be explained. And essentially, that is something my parents won't be able to accept easily. This will probably be very bothersome to them. Especially to my mom. My mom is very inclined on what she believes that I am and what she wants me to be. And it breaks her heart to hear me not agreeing with her on the views she essentially has about me. Like, my mom has like a made up image in her mind on what I'm like. And because of that, it will be hard for her to accept the entire ordeal. And also, it will be probably pretty hard for my dad. Not because he's unaccepting, but because he tries, but he always ends up saying shit that is very transphobic in the end. I mean, they're old, they don't really understand the mindset behind things like that. They just like, they, I don't know, they are my parents, so they are generally having a hard time with the fact that what they thought they had would be different. But like, my parents are kind of accepting in other regards, because like they never really cared about what gender their kid has. And they also never put me in gendered clothing or shit like that. So at least they aren't very stereotypical. And my mom personally despises parents that push for, oh, my kid is a female, so I'm going to put it into essentially like all pink clothes and shit. Like, my parents despise people like that. My parents also don't like helicopter parents, but they are helicopter parents themselves, so that's kind of funny. But they don't want to admit it, so I'm just gonna let them be. But they're very scared of me and like all different areas where they could possibly be scared of me. They are. Yeah. which is understandable since I suffer from a lot of disordery shit. And yeah, they want to watch out for me. So they're sweet and old, and sometimes they don't really know how to react to things. And personally, I wouldn't know how to react to my kid being different than what I thought they were. But like my reaction to my kid coming out would probably just be like, okay, I mean, that's your identity. Yeah. So I don't really care what identity my kid has. If it's suffering from problems with their identity, then that's a different issue. But if it's just like, I want to be this and that identity, then yeah. Also, so yeah, the entire trans thing is kind of hard. And no, I cannot tell you if there's any way to know that you're trans or not, or if there's any like indications. For me, the indications were my over 10-year long obsession with the subject, and it started out with I'm bisexual and an ally, and then it got into um, oh, I'm pansexual and non-binary, and of course an ally. But like if you're part of the community, I think that's kind of normal take, I would say. um, yeah, and it all started like 2 or 3 years ago when I was understanding myself as non-binary, when a friend sat me down and was like, I get the feeling that there's something wrong with you. And I was like, what do you mean, like something wrong with me? And they were like, you're not okay. You're definitely not okay. Like your behavior suggests that you are struggling and that you are not okay. And I was very confused. I was like, you're trying to make me insecure. And I think they probably themselves didn't really know what they were getting at. So, yeah, they probably, in a lot of instances, I felt like they were making me insecure by just like asking me stuff. Like, that would suggest to me that I am that kind of stuff. Like someone of your friends, like if you are just living your life and then one of your friends just sits you down and is like, there's something wrong with you, that will probably scare you. That will probably scare you essentially if you have been believing that you are doing better right now than you have been for some time. So yeah, I was actually in that moment, I was kind of shocked because I personally had believed that I was doing better than just some time before. And then they were just like, no, your behavior suggests that you are not fine, that you're doing badly. And that's scary. Stuff like that is scary. And because it's scary, I wanted to avoid it. I don't like to have too many discussions about things where I get the feeling that people won't accept it anyways. Like, for me, that is like a pointless discussion, essentially. Because if no one's going to understand my standpoint, then why should I argue on it? Yeah, which is probably pretty sad, but like, what am I supposed to do about it? Except, like, I cannot look into other people's state of mind or inside of their head. And demanding that of me is also pretty weird. A pretty weird thing to demand of people, I would say, because like how am I supposed to know what's going on into another person's head? But I just hate it when people criticize other people with like an argument of, oh, you're lying, but or you're being disingenuous. Like, this is so hard to tell. Like, some people give up the vibe of being disingenuous when in fact they are genuine with what they're saying, but they're just so bad at articulating it because they have like a disorder of some sorts, that they're just like they're so bad at articulating what they wanted to convey, that it's kind of rude actually. It's kind Oh, I haven't saved this. It's kind of rude to just be like, oh, hi again, twink friend, you're doing good today. No, I'm actually doing pretty bad. If I would be doing good, I wouldn't make the stream because I would probably be sleeping. Because it's like 6 a.m. now, the sun has already risen, and the weather is bad, and my mood is bad, and I'm just here talking about the subjects in the hopes of tiring myself out, because if I do, that means I can go back to bed and essentially sleep, because I have to get used to just sleeping to uncertain time periods. And I have, over the last half year, I have gotten very used to staying up at nighttime, which is bad because in a month I will start university, and that means I have courses that I need to attend to, and they are in the middle of the day. So my biorhythm is just like very out of control. I never had it this as bad as I have it right now. Um, Over the last year, it really went to shit, and I have a hard time sleeping. But I also, which is positive for me personally, because like I'm very lazy, but like I have been getting rushes of adrenaline where I just have to go for a walk, work out, and like move my body, which is very good in some kind of way. But it's terrible that it's always like at night or at 5 a.m. because like, oh, can this just be at 3 a.m. At 3 in the afternoon or some kind of stuff? That would be cooler. That would be way cooler. Yeah. By the way, the streaming platform really doesn't tell me on how long someone stays in my stream. I just get a notification on if someone has clicked on the stream, but not like if someone actually stayed here for some period. Like, they could have clicked off right after accessing the stream, like seeing what I'm doing and then just like checking in and leaving. So I don't know how many people are actually listening to this. But yeah. Uh, so the question still remains, Why are trans people so depressed about everything? First of all, they are the butt of the joke in their own community. Like, if you are trans, um, you sometimes even aren't accepted in the LGBTQ community. And by that, I don't mean openly, but openly, because like openly, the LGBTQ community is for everyone that is queer, but like um, subconsciously or with like stupid side comments, transphobic remarks, misgendering, stuff like this. And yeah, that's pretty bad on itself. Then, of course, like the daily life of just like looking like a biological woman, but going outside and then being referred to as a woman when this is deeply uncomfortable for you because you don't want to be seen as a woman. Then the thought bias of yourself, where you just have to reassign your own values to yourself because, like, you feel like you're not enough, you feel like you're between two things, essentially, also while you're in transitioning state. This has always been a problem to me, especially for the several years that I have been identifying as non binary. Of course, like getting people to understand the entire subject. Some people are very willing to understand but do make mistakes, and other people are very unwilling to understand, but they are just so close in your circle that you kind of have to make them understand. Like, if this is an acquaintance or a friend that you don't meet often, you can probably, if they are being transphobic and not understanding you, you can probably mean to say but get rid of them. But if it's like your mother, in some instances you just have to deal with the blatant transphobic stuff they put out. Sometimes because they are unaware of being transphobic, and other times because they are openly transphobic and like hate the idea of their kid being another gender, right? So that is also very bothersome. But then again, if the entire subject is new to you and you haven't come out and you aren't outed towards your outside world, then it's also pretty hard to essentially out yourself to your friends, because I personally have a cool friend group. Like, I think all of my friends are pretty accepting. And by that, I mean very accepting and have very little thought bias towards the entire thing. I have a lot of trans friends, so yeah, they are probably accepting, yes. But like, it's kind of hard for my relationship to deal with because of my constant depressive states about this topic. And of course, it's hard for my parents. Essentially, they don't even know about it, and I don't know when I will tell them because I already know that they don't want to hear it. And that they will react badly because they reacted badly to all my other coming outs in the past. And what else? A lot of things. The sheer process of mental stress this causes is insane. It is insane. It is insane to think about how hard it is to get surgery, how hard it is to get evaluations, because I already stated my bad connotations towards psychiatrists, right? And because of this, I I am very not fond of going back to therapy, because you have to be in therapy if you are transgender, or you won't get rights to surgery. And also, you don't get rights to surgery if your psychiatrist disagrees with you. Like, if they think you're making it up or you're lying or you're essentially, in quotation marks, not trans enough, then they don't give you the rights to testosterone or like hormone therapy. In my case, testosterone. and like surgery costs, which is probably not even in the near future of the next 3 years for me, because like the cost of surgery is like at least $3,000, like just top surgery, referring to top surgery right now. And I really want to get my breasts removed. I always wanted that, but I'm closer to it than ever. Oh, and I really have to save up money, but like I don't have any kind of money left for anything, sadly. Yeah, that is really like just the sheer thought process of I can begin to start being who I want to be in like earliest time of 2 years. That's just like the nationwide restrictions. Then like a name change, it's probably impossible. I don't even have made up my mind on like a male name yet. All choices are pretty bad. I don't really have a good one yet. So in all my communities, I'm currently nameless. I hope this will change in the next half year. I hope that I find a cool name that I can assign to myself, because like my online names are very female oriented and I really don't vibe with it. I really don't like that. Yeah, and I think I'm ending it soon and going to bed. And I mean, everyone who has been here, thank you for listening. Anyone else who came in, thank you for being here. Anyone who might listen to those videos in the future because they're up on Twitch and YouTube, I hope you take something positive from this, maybe. If not, I hope you feel like you are heard, or if you have like a shared experience here. I hope just like that something good comes out of all of this for you. And I don't know. I just like gender identity is vast and cause of depression for me. And I have to think about it a lot. And I still have to think about it a lot more. Yeah. I think with that, I'm just gonna save the stool and then go off to bed and just like sleep. Good night, I would say. Bye bye. Sleep well.